Welcome to our Family Talk video supporting first-generation college students. I'm your host, Rebecca Downing. I'm the Senior Director of Communications and Parent Initiatives at Colgate. We're here to talk about the resources that Colgate has in place with First at Colgate. That's our program for first-gen students, as we call them. We also would like to share thoughts on the things that parents, family members, guardians, and other caregivers can do to partner with us in supporting their students. I'm thrilled to have two guests joining me today for our conversation. RaJhai Spencer has been director of the First at Colgate program since 2020, and Tabisha Raymond joined Colgate as the program's assistant director in 2022. Both themselves were first-generation students. Welcome, RaJhai and Tabisha.
Hello, thank you for having us, Rebecca.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So maybe we can start with how Colgate defines a first-generation student, and how would a first-gen student become involved with the First at Colgate program?
So I could start with that. The Colgate University uses different definitions when determining a student's eligibility for First at Colgate. And so the three that we have are students whose birth parent or adopted parents did not receive a bachelor's degree or higher, a student whose parents have or had a bachelor's degree, which was obtained less than 4 years ago while the student was in high school, or a student whose parents have earned a post-secondary degree from another country, and it didn't translate over into the US appropriately. And from there, we learn about a student's first-gen status through their admission application process. And from there, we add them to our outreach and they receive our newsletters. And it's ultimately their choice to get engaged in the program if they want to, but it is highly encouraged. In addition to all of this, we include our Quest Bridge Scholars and OUS students in our outreach, as there is a lot of overlap in our programs.
Oh, great. Thanks so much for outlining that, Tabisha. Now, can we talk a little bit about what exactly the First at Colgate program is? What it's all about? How does it work?
First at Colgate is designed to provide support for our first-generation students with both the adjustment to college and just life in college in general. So we provide a variety of different programs and opportunities throughout the year, starting with our summer pre-orientation program, which happens just right before orientation in mid-August. And then throughout the year, we'll have a variety of different social activities, study nights, different trips and things that students can go and be a part of. We want to provide opportunities for students to learn more about the college experience, to really engage with all the opportunities and resources that Colgate has available to them, and prepare for life after graduation.
That's great. So will they hear from you? Is that how they find out?
Yes. So once we have a list of all of our first-gen students from admissions, we send out communication starting in early June. So typically in June, students are working with the registrar's office, completing their course selection forms, and we'll do a Zoom session in June to help provide some guidance along with that, so they know, what kinds of classes they might be wanting to take during their first semester, and make some more informed decisions as they're filling out those forms. For students that do not participate in the pre-orientation program, we typically have a welcome back activity the first week of class, and so they can come and introduce themselves to us during that time. But they'll all still continue to get our newsletters throughout the year with different opportunities, and they can opt in as they see fitting for their personal situation.
Fabulous. Could you talk a little bit too about family members and how they might interact with the program?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think our big thing is that First at Colgate is sort of this family that we want to cultivate, in which we support each other through difficult times. And the way that we do that is through our programming. But our family doesn't just stop at your children. It goes further than that. We'd like to include you in our programming and in our family. And so in that essence, we do some programming to help incorporate our family involvement, in which we do a pre-orientation family dinner, in which it's an opportunity for you all to come visit campus and to connect with faculty, staff, and some of your students' peers, in a more intimate kind of setting. And then from there, we also do a family dinner during family weekend, which is usually on that Saturday. And it's the same concept in which we invite you to attend. And the dinner is meant to hear more about your students' experience and from other students, faculty, and staff as well. And in these opportunities, it's just a great way for you all to kind of find out what we're doing in our program. And if that doesn't seem to work out with you all, we do have Instagram, and shameless plug, you're welcome to follow us on Instagram to see all that it is that we do in our program to help support our family and your students.
Yeah. We're also open to taking phone calls and emails. So families can also email us at first@colgate.edu. We're happy to help if there's a situation coming up with your student, something going on at home that may impact them here personally and academically. We would love to know so we can best support them. Life doesn't stop happening when students are in college, and we try to be here to support them as their family away from home. And so having that open line of communication is really important to the student's success.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I'd love to jump back real quick just to put a finer point on that notion of pre-orientation, when it happens, and that the dinner that families are invited to. So my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is, Colgate has Arrival Day, which is that Sunday that many families come, drop their students off, they move into their rooms. There's a parent-family orientation session. While the students are doing some other things, then everyone gets together, has a little welcome moment with the Colgate president and some other leaders at Colgate, and then the families say goodbye and go home. The pre-orientation for the first program, that happens and starts a few days beforehand, and we will offer that same parent and family orientation on that day, right? So, yes. And that there'll be a dinner that night. So that's when that would happen. Exactly. Right? It sort of takes the place of that Sunday moment, right? It's like that's the day that first Colgate families would be dropping their student off, and then they can take advantage of that program. That is exactly correct. Yes. So that afternoon, our students and families will arrive on campus. There will be the opportunity for parents and families to attend a separate orientation session that's typically held in the chapel. And then following that session, we'll do our dinner where they can learn more about our program and engage with us and some other staff on campus here. But that is an opportunity for parents to connect, ask questions, and really get a feel for what their students' experience will be like here on campus. And they don't have to stay the entire time that the student is here in orientation. We know that can be very costly with hotels and travel. So if a student is coming for a pre-orientation program, rest assured that the family will receive the same information. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Also, RaJhai, you and I will send a letter to everyone in July. So, and folks may be watching this after that fact. So look for that letter if you're watching this and haven't seen the letter yet. So I just wanted to mention that. Let's shift a little bit. So for families who have a first-gen student who is about to start at Colgate, if they're watching this before their student arrives, what should their parents, families, caregivers be aware of in terms of how they need to prepare? Like, is there anything different they can or should be doing above and beyond the new student checklist, or just in general, how should they be preparing to get to Colgate?
Yeah. I can't stress the importance of checking email. Here at Colgate and every college campus, that is the main way that the university will communicate with students and families. So checking email is very important. Any updates that the students need will be sent through email. We'll be in communication with them as well. And there's so many opportunities that students miss just by not checking their email. So we want them to stay on top of that. As you mentioned, there will be a checklist for Arrival Day where students have to turn in their immunization records and different things like that. There's also a summer reading assignment that students do, and they have to write some reflections for their FSIM advisor prior to their arrival here on campus. I think it's important to get a good start on those things because they lay a good foundation for the student. And just having some understanding of what's happening the first couple of weeks of class, and then they're not distracted trying to catch up on assignments and things like that already. We will, again, provide opportunities for students to engage with us during the first week of school. And so we'll send out some notifications about that through email. But even if the student can't make that opportunity, there'll be other opportunities throughout the school year. We'll have different workshops and opportunities for them to meet different campus partners and offices and learn more about what Colgate has to offer. So checking email is very important. If a student has a question, they should definitely call or email us. We are open to helping them navigate this transition. Another thing is we want students to save some money over the summer if they're working a part-time job. College is expensive. We offer a wonderful financial aid package here at Colgate for students that are eligible for financial aid. There are so many hidden costs to attaining a college education, and students will want to do things that are outside of what is covered by financial aid, and going out with friends and experiencing new things in and around New York. And so being able to save some of that money and prepare for their fall semester is really important. And then also thinking about balance. Like, we have a lot of highly engaged students that were really involved and active in high school, working part-time jobs, involved in different clubs and leadership opportunities, and making straight A's. College is a transition, and so I always encourage students to find 2 or 3 things that you're really passionate about, and commit to those things and get involved in them in your first year, but also take advantage of all the resources that are here and available to you. It's a learning curve, learning how to study and prepare for class in a new way. And actually, Colgate is a very discussion-based kind of atmosphere where you're engaging in your classes, and it's a small, intimate atmosphere. And so your voice is really important. And so we want you to make the most of that opportunity, and take advantage of professors' office hours and go to tutoring. Those are all free resources that are here and available to every student on campus. And it really makes a difference.
That's great. Thank you so much. What about any sort of financial matters that might come up, questions that you have? For example, students who are on financial aid who get a refund sometimes. Can you explain that and what kind of an email they might get from student accounts, and how it might be helpful for parents to know about this?
Yeah, so students that are eligible for a refund will have that money available where they can transfer it into their bank account or to their Colgate card. So they'll receive an email from student accounts, and then that money is supposed to be used for educational purposes. And so it can be used when they come to campus to purchase their textbooks, or there may be other costs associated with their cost of education throughout the semester that come up, different supplies that they need for class, or outside of class activities that are related to their class. And so that money would be available to them through the form of a refund. All of our first and second year students are currently required to have a meal plan. And so that will be automatically taken out of their financial aid if they have that. And so they'll have swipe access in the dining halls. But the books and the travel are expenses that are not billed. And so students, when they're saving for the summer, they also need to be thinking about, okay, how do I get to campus? Because Colgate's not going to pay for their travel up front. Like I said, some students may be eligible for a refund, and they can, put that money back into their savings after they've paid for their travel to campus. But that's something that they want to plan ahead for.
Thank you so much. And I understand you have an email list that families might want to sign up for. How would they do that?
Yeah, if they want to connect with us, they can email us at first@colgate.edu. We're happy to share some information with families and parents. We send out newsletters to our students about different opportunities that are going on throughout school year, and we're also happy to send some information to parents, and so that they can encourage their students to come. And the more we know about your student, the better we can support them. And so we're open to having those conversations and letting you know about some things that may be coming up in the next few months that you can help direct your student to.
Fabulous. So once students arrive here on campus, what kinds of challenges might a first-gen individual go through or face when they are at college? And how do you support them? I mentioned earlier, Tabisha and RaJhai, you both were first-gen students, so you speak from experience. So can you talk a little bit about the kinds of things that they may face that might feel more like a challenge that you think families should be sensitive to and understand?
I can touch on this. I think the biggest thing is just that adjustment, especially coming from different areas of the US across the country. Just to make it here at Colgate, it's an adjustment, especially here at Colgate University, being where it is centered in Hamilton, New York. It's not the typical New York City vibes that people are used or aware of. And so it's a huge adjustment for parents, students, and for anyone who does come here. And so it definitely, the weather is shocking at times. It's a culture shock, especially depending on where a student is from, whether they're from an urban population. It's definitely different here. And then it is a PWI, meaning that the campus is a predominantly white institution. And so that could be adjustment for some of our students, especially with the differences in income that may be apparent in the other students that do attend Colgate. I think through all this adjustment, there's this wave of imposter syndrome that kind of overwhelms a student at times. And it's very common that a student may not be aware that it's imposter syndrome, but be experiencing those symptoms in terms of just not really wanting to look a certain way because of fear of like rejection or embarrassment, or thinking that they're not capable of doing something. But I will say that each student that's admitted to Colgate is admitted for a reason, and they are destined for greatness. It's just that little reminder that kind of just needs to happen for them to kind of realize it and to push through. I think in terms of just what I talked about in terms of just those challenges, the way that we try to help students is to provide like opportunities to talk with other individuals who may have experienced the same thing, especially like in this past semester, we had an imposter syndrome workshop in which we had Professor Sylvia Bolanos, who is a math teacher here at Colgate, talk about their experience in adjusting to higher education and even how imposter syndrome affects them in their day-to-day life and ways to combat that. And in terms of general adjustment, me and RaJhai are here at all times. My door is always open, and they're welcome to come in and reach out if they need someone to talk to or someplace to hang out. My office is the place to do that. And so we do encourage that students try to find home here at Colgate, because the next 4 years, this place will be your home. And there are people like myself and RaJhai who care deeply about your student success. And that's a really big thing that we hope that students are aware of and can see through our engagement with them through our program.
Yeah, that support is really there. I often hear it stated like, this is your Colgate. Every student is here, like you said, they're here because they earned it. They are absolutely, they're here for a reason. And so for parents, I encourage them to remind their student of that, like, you belong there. Everyone belongs here.
I would also add, sometimes students feel this pressure, and sometimes they feel it from their parents or family. And sometimes, it's a pressure that they put on themselves because they think their parents and family have these expectations of them. So I try to remind students that your parents and your families are proud of you. You've come so far, and throughout college, you're going to have a setback here and there. You might not do well on that first chemistry exam, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're disappointing anyone, right? It's an opportunity for you to learn and grow and figure out ways to adjust and improve, right? So that's an important reminder for our students. A lot of students come in with an expectation that, I have to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or something of that matter. But we really want students to explore the depth of the Colgate education and the variety of opportunities that are available to them through a liberal arts education. And part of doing that is engaging with career services and learning about the different opportunities that are available to them. We want students to be able to go for different internships and fellowships and have different experiences throughout their time here that will better prepare them for life after Colgate. And there's a ton of different opportunities that are available to students after Colgate. And so getting them to really think outside the box about different opportunities and research experiences is important. And let them know like they don't have to commit to a specific major. Not everyone has to be a biology major or major in business. Like there are different opportunities, and it's about the transferable skills that you get from your degree program. Being here in class and sitting in classrooms discussing different topics with students, you're going to learn a lot about the world around you. You're going to formulate different perspectives and learn different ways of studying and analyzing material and talking with different groups of people and working in collaboration. And those are all important skills that are being looked for and sought out by employers and graduate schools. And so really helping students to know like major decisions are difficult, and you don't have to subscribe to a specific major. If you're passionate about a topic, that's what you should be studying. That's what you should be exploring a little bit more. And there are different ways that you'll have the opportunity to do that, both through your classes and outside of class in different workshops and guest speakers, meeting with professors in office hours and things like that. And so we really try to highlight those opportunities for our students.
Thanks so much. This is a good time maybe for me to plug, since you were talking about majors. We have for families, parents and families, an updates blog. So if you go to the colgate.edu website and type in the search family updates, there's a blog with all kinds of helpful articles. And one of them is actually called Selecting a Major. And you can learn more about how Colgate thinks about the major and helpful tips for parents in talking to their student about their major. What about that notion of, someone mentioned earlier, like life doesn't stop when you go to college. So students are, of course, plugged into what's happening with their families. Sometimes there are things happening at home that can affect a student, whether it's that they're having feelings about where they are here at Colgate versus where their family is, or if there are just things that are happening that they feel like they need or want to be involved in, or that they're aware if they're happening. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic for our first gen students and how we support them, for example, if there's an emergency?
Yeah, that's a tough one. As I mentioned, life doesn't stop happening for anyone. When you're in college, there are still going to be things that happen within your family, whether it's, financial trouble, a younger sibling is getting into some issues with school or, not doing well. Family illness, those are all things that are very common for every college student. And so each student here is assigned an administrative dean. In addition to my role as director of First at Colgate, I'm also an administrative dean and work with a few hundred students. And so our administrative deans are here to support students through those transitions. We also have counseling on campus. I know a lot of our students are a little hesitant to engage in that type of resource, but it is free and it's available to students and very helpful. We have both individual counseling, so students can go and have biweekly appointments. They can drop in if they're feeling a little bit of anxiety or pressure. We also have opportunities for students to engage in group therapy as well. So those are all resources here. We also have a confidential resource in the form of our chaplain's office, which supports students from a variety of different religious backgrounds. And so, life doesn't stop happening. And it's best to communicate with your dean, with your professors, and you don't have to share, all of your business as a student, but just having someone that you can talk to is really important to help keep you grounded. And then, we want to encourage families to share with students, but, try not to overshare. We do see that students sort of take on this responsibility, like, if I were back home, this wouldn't be happening. And that's not necessarily the case, right? All of our families and parents are grown and capable of managing households. They've done that up until this point, and sometimes we have to remind students, like, your parents are your parents and they're your parents for a reason. Like, you don't necessarily have to take care of them and manage everything. It's great that you're always a help to your family, but you're going to help them more in the long run by changing the trajectory of your family's educational history. By being here, getting these experiences, you're setting, blazing the trail for your family, for your younger siblings and cousins and things like that. So being here is really important, and we want to make sure students are supported in their degree attainment. And so keeping those lines of communication with both students and families is really important. If a family has, a major thing that may be an obstacle to a student's success, we are definitely open to speaking with them as members of the First at Colgate staff or administrative deans, and trying to figure out ways to help support their student through that. We do have opportunities where we've had to send students home, and case of emergency, we'll work with them. If there's a death in the immediate family and things like that, we are here to support the student in making sure that they're well academically, physically, mentally, and they can really engage socially and make the most of their Colgate experience.
I just wanted to add to that point in terms of my personal experience as being a first generation college student and obtaining 2 degrees in the span of 5 years. I do know that a big thing in terms of just like that support that you could receive from your family is just a simple text or like a phone call saying that you're proud or that you're excited to see what will come next. I think during my personal experience, I didn't really get too much of that during my time in college. And I think it generally stemmed from not sharing too much about my experience in college. And so when I had finally graduated with my master's and I had the opportunity to share with my family and my parents and to see them come to my campus in Florida to celebrate my accomplishment, I remember my dad giving me a speech, and it was like the most heartfelt speech. Like, I remember shedding tears because it was the first time that I heard from my parents, like, how proud they were of me, and it meant a lot. And I know that in that moment, that day on my graduation, it meant a lot, but it would have meant even more if I heard it during the tough moments, during like my college career. And just, when I failed that test or when I didn't get that internship, it would have meant a lot and encouraged me to keep pushing. And so I do encourage parents to send your student a text, to talk to them about how proud you are and about how excited they are to see where you're going to go and what's to come next. Because I do think that plays a huge part in a student's success in college.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, really helpful advice, I am sure, to many parents. I just want to mention a couple of other ways that families can support their students that, are resources that we provide them to help them do that. The more family members, caregivers, parents become familiar with how things work at Colgate, the more they can support their student. So we have the Parent and Family Resource Guide. It is online on our website, and you can download it and print it if you want to, or just read it on your phone, either way. Do not hesitate to contact us if you have a question, whether it's RaJhai or Tabisha or myself at parents@colgate.edu. We know that even if you do not have specific experience with college yourself, we do know that you're there to support and love your student, and we're here to support you in doing that. Another thing I tell parents a lot is if they hear something from their student that they're having a challenge, encourage them to reach out for help on campus early. No one is expecting their student to know any answer right, on their own. And remind them that asking for help is actually a sign of strength. Our staff are all here, ready, willing, and able, and totally respect it when a student asks questions and comes in and seeks advice. All right, RaJhai mentioned that each student has an administrative dean, as well as she mentioned a whole bunch of other offices and resources on campus. You can remind your student that having meetings with them, get to know them, build a relationship. All these services are free. And the more our staff knows your student, the more our staff can help them. And, urging your student to focus on their studies and their new community. We know that some families might find that challenging, but we know that you want them to be as successful as they can be. So just wanted to mention those points that are things that come up when I talk to parents a lot. So let's take one other pivot and talk about what family members should know about their students' academic experience. Like, what does a normal course load look like? What will they be going through when the classes start?
I can take that one. So students are typically taking 4 courses during their time here at Colgate, which is a little different from a lot of other colleges. Parents may be aware of like credit hours or semester hours. Here at Colgate, each course is 1 credit, but if we were to transfer that somewhere else, it'd be the equivalent of 4 credit hours, right? So generally students are in class, 12 to 15 hours a week, but being a full-time student is a full-time job. And so the other, 35 hours a week, they should be studying and engaging with their course material, doing homework. For every hour that a student is in class, they should really be doing like 3 hours worth of work and studying in preparation for that class. And so we want students to be able to find that balance. Going to class is really important. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of Colgate courses are discussion-based, and students' input and attention and being able to keep up with the material is really important. But students are also engaging with the material outside of class. And so we can help students in terms of time management and how to plan out their day. There's also resources in the Center for Learning, Teaching, and Research that can help with that type of thing. But students are busy here. So they're doing those things, and then they're also working part-time jobs, maybe 10 to 20 hours a week. They're also getting involved in different clubs and organizations and going to outside lectures and workshops. Those are all really important aspects of the college experience. You can't do one without the other. There has to be a balance between both the academics and the social experience in order to make a full and, productive college experience. In terms of advising and support, students have their FSIM advisor during their first year. And so that is the professor that teaches their FSIM course, which is mandated during the fall semester. In addition to them, they have an administrative dean that they can also speak with at any time. We have open office hours in the afternoons, or they can schedule an appointment with their administrative dean through email or stop into the office to schedule an appointment as well. And throughout their year, they'll have meetings with both their advisor and their dean to help support them in making choices about classes and thinking about problems. If they're having difficulty communicating with their professor or don't know how to ask a question of their professor, that's something they can talk with their administrative dean about. We also have students during their second year will declare their major. And so typically that is right before spring break in March of their second year. Students are required to declare their major. And at that point, they'll have the opportunity to identify a faculty advisor that is specific to their major. So if a student is studying mathematics, they'll identify a professor in the mathematics department that will serve as their faculty advisor for the remainder of their time here at Colgate as they complete their major and their degree. And so there are tons of academic support resources. As I mentioned, the Center for Learning and Teaching and Research, they offer consultations to help with study skills and organization, but they also provide peer tutoring, so they can match a student with a peer tutor for a variety of different courses. Students are highly encouraged to attend office hours with their professors, to ask about course material, review content, prepare for their exams. I encourage students to make it a regular part of their routine. Like, don't wait till the first exam or after you get that test grade back. Like, put into your weekly schedule, I'm going to go visit these 2 professors this week, these 2 the next week, and make it a regular part of your routine. And then lastly, also have the Office of Student Disability Support Services. So some of our students may have been diagnosed previously with a learning disability or have some physical disability or perhaps deal with anxiety and depression. Those are all things that students can work with the Office of Student Disability Services to seek support in getting academic adjustments in their classes, whether that be extended time on the test, testing in a separate environment, different assistive learning technologies. So students can always schedule a consultation with that office and seek out some support that will help them to prepare better for their exams and things, but also help them to, maximize their potential in the classroom and really make the most of their Colgate experience. And it's never too late for a student to connect. So, they haven't been previously diagnosed with something, but think there may be something going on, we would definitely encourage them to connect with the Office of Student Disability Support Services, and their administrative team can help facilitate that conversation with them as well.
That's fabulous. Thanks so much. One of the things that I hear from parents sometimes is, my student is struggling in a class. They just aren't getting the material. They don't feel like they're connecting with the professor. And the thing I remind family members to and urge them to encourage their student to think about the fact that our professors here at Colgate come to Colgate because they want to teach students, undergraduate students. They want to interact with them. They want to build a relationship with them. Our classes are small for a reason. It is not, again, it's like with asking for help in other ways. Like asking for help is not a weakness, it's a sign of strength. And professors, it's a sign to them if a student comes to their office hours or comes up to them after class and says, can I make an appointment to talk to you about this course material? That shows the professor that the student really cares about the class, that they're engaged in the work, and that they're gonna do better in the class when they interact with the professor. So I always urge parents to remind their students of that. Like, your professors want to see you and they want to hear from you. And it's not just in the times that you're scheduled for class. It's during other times of day when you can get to them and talk to them. So just wanted to mention that as a helpful point.
Yeah.
Is there anything else either of you would want our viewers to know today before we end this?
I think just signing on and watching this video is the first sign of support you can give to your child, even though they may not be aware that you're watching. It's still good to know that you are still engaged in your student's life, even throughout their collegiate journey. And so I think this is just a huge step, and I really do appreciate everyone who takes the opportunity to watch this video.
Yeah. And again, we are always here to help in any way we can, so don't hesitate to reach out. First@colgate.edu. We're happy to receive your emails and phone calls and figure out how we can best support you and your student.
Thank you so much. And again, if you also have other questions for me, I'm here to support parents. So parents@colgate.edu. Thank you so much for a great conversation, both of you.
Thank you.